So this app, the app froze, so I had to come back. So let's see how many people actually come back. Avuga ng'eyagula ekkubo olina obulamu bw'omuntu omulala mu ngalo zo. Hi Patrick. Yeah, YouTube froze and I had to, hi Seth, the YouTube app froze and it booted me out of the broadcast, so I had to restart. Not Chris Da Vinci, it's not actually the network, it's the app froze, and when the app freezes, it boots you out of the live, and then you cannot come back. So that's what happened. That's why I had to restart this. Yeah. You have a mask. It's your choice. So you choose the cheaper choice. I think you should go, you will walk faster. Yeah, so we are still talking about focus as we are planning to buy our next ride. Because your next ride might be a Land Cruiser TX, your Land Cruiser ZX if that exists, the Land Cruiser VX, your next ride. Personally, I don't even know what my next car is going to be, because cars are not in my next, let's say, 5-year goal. I don't think I have a car in my dreams in the next 3 years. I have plenty of other things to do that are more important, and I've focused on those ones. If I buy a car, it will be on the, let's say, akasenta akasoka mwako akajja n'ogamba kansubuleyo emmotoka wano, okitegeera, project car kansubuleyo emmotoka, okitegeera, ebeerewo tubeere n'emmoloka bbiri ng'eno bwefa tulina gye tukola ki, tulina gye tuvuga. So we are talking about focus. And I think I was talking about the important bits, and I was talking about a person that that buys a TX before their time to actually buy a TX has come, and because they have bought a TX before their time to buy a TX came, what they end up doing, if it breaks down and they ask, for example, a gearbox breaks down and they ask them for 7 million, or if the engine breaks down and they ask them for 15 to 20 million to buy a new engine, and then they cannot afford it, that's when they realize, oh, I bought the wrong car. And these are things that I normally tell people. These are things that I normally ask them, okay, will you be able to afford, like totally afford this car in case it breaks down, like the biggest thing that can break down? That's another thing for you to ask yourself. For example, if some engine broke down, you not spend more than 2.5 million to buy a new engine and put it there, almost the same as my engine, you get. But if the Mark X engine broke down, which is very rare by the way, if it broke down, how much would you spend to buy another one? Subaru Forester, you'd spend about 5 million to simply just buy a Kawanga. Let's say 4 million to simply buy a Kawanga of the engine, you get, which is the most important thing. But let's say that engine breaks down, that's very expensive. So let's go back to you want to buy a Toyota Fortuner, and your concentration is going to be, I really want to buy a Toyota Fortuner. But then you need to go back, okay, in my dreams of buying a car, what should I really focus on? I should focus on fuel efficiency, I should focus on affordable maintenance, I should focus on resale value, I should focus on can I really afford it? Because that's the other thing that you should really focus on. And then when Arthur looks at that, Arthur wants a Mercedes Benz, You get. No, actually what happened is that YouTube blocked me. The YouTube app froze, and it booted me. There are two things I first find out before buying a used car: how much is engine and gearbox on parts market. This guides me on affordability. Funny but true. Yeah, it's very important. It's very important, because normally when we have a car, and let's say the engine starts to act up, and your next course of action is to buy an engine. Just imagine you bought a Isuzu D-Max and the engine acts out. Will you be able to afford a new engine? That's another thing for you to think about. If you you definitely made the wrong decision of a car, so you need to think about it yourself. That's why the men that came before us, the men that we look up to, Baringa Bagezi. You find a man that makes an annual income of 300 million driving a Wish. Nenga, he can comfortably buy. And the keyword is buy. He can comfortably buy a Land Cruiser TX or V8. You get? But he's not buying it. Why? He has looked at the fact that, okay, if the engine breaks down, can I buy a new engine comfortably? Or if the gearbox breaks down, can I comfortably buy the gearbox? Can I buy the engine and all that? The Toyota Surf engine, you could probably use like 8 to 10 million, and I'm guessing it could go higher than that. You get? So you think about it that way, and just fixing it, okujisibamu, overhauling the engine will cost you about 3 million, 3.5, 4 million, depending on where and what things they are going to put in the engine. So you need to think. Normally, when you're thinking about how much does it cost for me to overhaul the engine, then double the price to buy a new engine. Sometimes it's 3 times the price. You get. And then there are engines that should not be overhauled. Like VVTI engine should not be overhauled. Like a VVTI engine acts up, does something that could cause you to overhaul, just buy a new engine. You get. That's why I'm buying a new engine. I just thought, okay, let's change it. I'm renewing I'm not going to buy another car for myself in the next couple of years. So why not just put an engine in this car and I renew it? It's like I'm going to be driving a bond car. Apart from the body and all, engine again. Already my engine gives me 15 kilometers on the liter. So I'm imagining if I put a new engine, and I'm just imagining if I put a new engine, I'll be doing 18 to 20 kilometers per liter, which is very, very good. You get. So let's go back to the focus before you buy a car. You look at the important bits, and the most important bit is, can you even afford to maintain it on the road? I wish the other princess who wanted a Mark X at 5 million was online. Yeah, there's a possibility that she's online, because just imagine you buy a Mark X at 5 million, it means you definitely don't have a lot of budget. So you buy a Mark X at 5 million, which gives you 6 kilometers, probably 5 kilometers per liter, and nekumenya no parking, and you only drive it once a month. And we all know a friend of ours that drives their car once a month, not because they don't need to drive it, but because they cannot afford to drive it regularly. So for them to save some money, they end up not. Wait,
let me come for
you. You needed to sign this thing for me. Are you going to come back? Okay, let me get it. So we all know someone that okay, this is the one. I don't have a leaflet that is signed, so you need to. So we all know someone that has decided that for them. Okay, it's going to be. So I actually have one. I think this is enough. So we all know someone that parks their car jivuga ku Sunday genda ku church, and it's not a choice. We all know someone that doesn't drive that has not chosen to, but situation and condition those conditions have forced them to actually drive their car once a month, once a week. But that's because they bought the wrong car at the right time. At the right time to buy a car, if you buy the wrong car, you're going to end up parking it most of the. Mr. Chisenyi, how much are the RAV4 headlights? How much does it cost to repaint the whole car? 3, how long does it? Okay, I'm not going to answer on the headlamps, but the headlamps is normally they will cost you between 70 to 200,000 depending on what. And I'm talking about each, because like my headlamps, each will cost me about 180 for mine. Yeah, but that's because it's like a new, and the headlamps can be found in the Alex, the Fielder, or Chitegera. So many cars use the headlamps, so demand creates higher prices. You get. In terms of respraying, if you're going to respray your car, I would advise that you put 2 weeks aside of your time. Nti emotoka bw'ogitwala ogifuuwa nga bagenda gigolola giwe ekitono ennyo 2 weeks ekitono. Nti the first week yakugolola ne bagolola. The second week is for spraying, okay? And probably you should actually have 3 weeks. The third week is for fitting and washing, and then they give you the car when it's clean. So normally you should have 3 weeks. Obutapapya muntu kukola majani gadirenga lye. So normally I would advise 3 weeks. If you're buying a car and you want to respray it before you have actually start driving it, because when you start driving it, then the comfort gets in, and then you decide, okay, sija kwagala. Like for example, me, the only reason I resprayed my car at any moment was because traffic police stopped me. Why? You get? I'm the kind, because hey, no. Sit up. You're good? Huh? He's doing what? Sitting. Okay, good. So the only reason I ever resprayed my car was because police bangamba gundi gendo fuire motoka irabika bubi. Otherwise, because I drive my car every day, I can drive it ne bumper ne tuko kuvako ne egwa wali. Ochitegera. Because for my days are busy. Ate sagala twala motoka ebisere bisinga jirika mu garage. So one way that would make it easy for me to do it is for me to have a second car. That okay, that car so jireka for 3 weeks ne bakola bibagala until they are done, and then they call me when they are done and I come for it. Ochitegera. That's why for anyone, but you need to be careful when you open it. That he has done. So before you buy your next car, I want you to think, can I afford? I don't have a pen, but I have one leaflet. Let me use that one. Oh, okay. Do you have a pen?
No, I don't.
I have one leaflet in here, just in case I don't make a mistake on it. If I can use that. I don't have a pen. Let's just leave it at that. So before you buy your next car or your first car, I want you to think about fueling. How often are you going to be driving that car? And will you be able to put fuel in that car every day that you're going to drive it? Or but there will be days when you will leave it at home or mafuta gabei. If you're buying a car and at any moment in your life you're going to think, I really need to drive this car, but I can't afford to drive it because I can't afford fuel, then Jason, Seth Kagaba, ordinary RAV4, 150 to 180 newer model. Last I checked was about 300 each. Okay. So the headlamps are between 150 to 180, and it can be higher. How much is the highest drone? UBF, UBG, UBH. I don't care, even if the engine is not so good. Okay. I don't want to lie to you.
Bye, Daddy.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, good. Don't lose him again. I don't want to lie to you about that price. That's something that I would have to call people and ask. So, sagara nkulimbe. But UBE mu kigege yaffe nkadde eri mu million nga 25. Okitegeera. So then ask yourself, then you can compare. I'm thinking that you know a bit about the pricing of those cars. Bomanya nti kigege ya UBE eri mu million nga 25 and above, then you can imagine how much the drone would actually cost you. Okitegeera. And I'm thinking, since you don't even mind if the engine is not good, then it can actually be, you can buy it at a bargain. Manyi bwoba ogula ekintu nga tofaayo bakiramu oba kifu, you can always come and bargain ogula weematira. Okitegeera. So before you buy, you need to focus on the important bits, but also buying a car should not be a short-term goal, because a car is not a short-term thing. It's not something that togula motoka n'ogikwatayo omwezi gumu n'ogitunda okujjako ng'oli musuubuzi. So if you're not a trader, if you're not a car trader, you should not think about buying a car as a short-term thing that you'd be driving along the road and then you decide, hey, let me buy this car. You get, because you're not a trader, you're definitely going to drive your car for more than a year. That's for people like you and me. You get. Of course, for me, this is the car I've driven. This is one of the cars I've driven for a long time. The first car that I drove for a long time was my Chibina. I drove it for 2 years. The very first Chibina I had. Then I think I drove a Caldina for about 1 year and a half. Then the other car that I drove a Vitz, by the way. I drove a Vitz for almost 2 years. It was about 1 month to 2 years. No, I drove it for 2 years, by the way. A few weeks to make 2 years. And apart from those 3 cars, I've driven this one for more than a year and a half now. And then my little cousin bro was asking me, Athene moto kango rudenayo. Oli kuchi. You get. But I think now when I was still single, I didn't really need to drive a car for a long time. But now I can't just do that because I know it's hard to get a car that is as good as the one I have now. And I have a family that travels every day, so we need to have a car in the family all the time. So you need to also think about that. When you buy a car, are you buying a car that you're going to sell next month in case it breaks down? Because then you will not mind, like this gentleman Muhammad has said, yeta fayo oba engine sinungi nnyo oba chi, he doesn't really care. So you need to think about that as well. If you're like Arthur, where you have people that will be going because even if I don't drive them, my wife will need to get to work, my kids will need to get to school, and we have made the cautious decision of driving them ourselves every day. When you look at the conditions that most of these kids are getting them school van, you actually rethink putting your kid in a school van. You'll find that they have a highest where they are supposed to be 14 people. So in case of anything, any kind of crash, or it will be very hard for them to survive. You get. But also, we have made a cautious decision that our kids will not simply go to the nearest school simply because of affordability. And these are decisions that we made consciously, that we will have a limited number of kids because kids are expensive. This is even way before we knew that kids were as expensive as they are. You get. Because I was saying that it's expensive for me to treat my kids in the hospital. Like malaria, for my kids, I treat it using about 75,000. Then I had a meeting with a friend of mine. She's a girl, she's a lady, and she told me when they were zabana abange bibarwala malaria. So just imagine if you had 3 kids, and normally malaria doesn't just affect one kid in the house. When malaria comes, because the mosquito comes from this kid to another, so you'll find that you're spending 300,000 in a single week to treat malaria. You get what I'm saying? So and it has nothing to do with immunity. Malaria is malaria. You get. Olaba fa abantu abakulu tulwala ate nga immunity yaffe eri developed okusinga y'abaana abato. You get. So this was a cautious decision we made so that we can actually afford to take our kids to fairly good schools. I want to say fairly good schools because I may not be able to take my kids to the best school that I think. You get. But then again, that was a cautious decision. So it's the same decision, it's the same thought process I apply when I'm buying a car. I need to think, a motor car, is there going to come a day when if I lose my job or if I lose my income? That hasn't talked about respraying. The costs. If you're going to respray a car, 600,000, because the motor car young in a course mitwalo. Atano mwetano. Atenda jikosa atano mwetano because etano na jiremera. I told the Mogorozi guy to do something and he refused. So when I was paying the balance, I returned it for 50k. So it was supposed to be 60k. He did, the sprayer did a good job generally. So katemoro kayo na spraying, if they are going to spray the right things, ngati bagenda kukola gadibenga, they just budget 600,000 for respraying the car the right way. You get morning Kaziwe. Yeah, the weekend wasn't that bad. So if at any point in your life you're going to think that if my income goes down a little bit, I'll not be able to afford that car, that's not the car you should buy. You should lower your standards. Lower your standards. If, for example, that Fortuner in front of us, let's say 2.4 cc, if there is a time that is going to come, I'm after Fortuner vehicle, genda meet some young mother. So we should have a lot of options. That's why normally I ask people, what job do you do, for example? Because omulimu gwokola nagwo gu dictating a sentence of jofuna in the next 5 years. I'm a theater artist. I am a marketer. For me, there are chances that I can go from making $1 million a month to making 20 million a month. Now someone is going to ask me how. I'm a performing artist. Nsobola okukola production nekikwata. Nsobola okukola film nekwata. Nsobola okukola TV show nekwata. So now you need to ask yourself, do I have that option, that chance? But I also know as a person that there are chances that I will do a production in Sala. There were those moments. There is a time I made a loss for like two consecutive seasons, and I even lost half of my staff because I could not pay them. Ate si government is in Nabagoba bebe goba. Mangamba Arthur, if you don't pay us what you owe us, we are not working for you anymore. And they left. And I had to rehire new staff. But not that the other seasons I was making profits. This season I didn't score a profit, but I could pay my people properly. I could cover my costs properly. And those things taught me that Arthur, don't just buy. You buy a car that you can actually afford to fuel, a car that you can actually afford to keep on the road. And that's how I ended up with the Corolla. I think I make sense. So my focus is, what do you need the car for? If I need a car for movement strictly, point A to B, then why am I including luxury? If you need a point A to B car, lwaki atogamba njagala Fortuner? The Fortuner is not a point A to B car. Fortuner motoka ya masape. And trust me, go look at half of the people that are driving the Toyota Fortuners and you realize that the car is a company car first of all, or the car is fueled by the company. Because the people that are driving Toyota Fortuners, ojakwesanga bamba CEO, abamu ba human resource managers in big corporations, abamba marketing managers. So you need to ask yourself, am I going to drive a car that a CEO of Centenary Bank is driving? Am I going to drive a car that a marketing manager of Pepsi Cola company is driving? A person that gets allowance every day because they think, okay, this guy is going to be in the field every day. So bamuwa mafuta. Gweteri aga kuwa. Oine chiduka mu chikubo na inga nawe yakala uvuge motoka like a person that gets fuel allowance every day. So you need to think again. Are you going to be driving the same car with a person that makes 100 million a year in Uganda? Let me go to Wits. You don't have to go to Wits, but of course if your math adds you up, then go to a Wits. Because it's one thing. Martha, I'll give you an example of Martha because I live and I'm sure she doesn't mind. Martha tagula Ipsam kulia swagger. Martha is buying Ipsam when she comes back because it's going to be a business car. okitegeera, it's going to be a business car egenda bemukolera akasente nga yeevuga naye nga ate era erina sente zereeta every day. When she buys the Ipsum, she's going to put screens in that car is a film, not because sape, because the people she's going to be driving are going to be paying for that, for the luxury. No, n'abaana be baanazaala bajja kulaba nga TV ezo naye nga alina abantu bagenda ovugiramu nga bagenda kusigala baagala motoka ye, because when we sit in Aunt Martha's car, for us we watch cartoon. Okitegeera, n'abazadde bennyini bajja kuba bagamba omwana wange agende mu motoka ya Aunt Martha. Aunt Martha motoka ye ebeera mu cartoon, abaana tebeebowa. Aunt Martha avuga bulungi, motoka ye ebeera comfortable. Emotoka ya Aunt Martha tekola overloading. Aunt Martha abaseera naye ta overloading. I've seen an Ipsum before that had over 20 kids in there. You can imagine osasulira school van naye ng'omwana bamutika n'abaana bala 19 mu Ipsum erina okutuuza abantu 7. Kati gwe muli owulira osavinga, but the day that car runs into a problem ojja kwesanga bagipakinze ku poliisi nga naawe bakuyisa ojjono n'omwana wo. I don't know if I make sense. You get? Kati awo Martha wagenda okureconsideringira. Martha, you can actually get a Chigege at like 15 million. If you can raise 15 million, business yaffe tuyinza ogijja mu Ipsum ne tugraduating and tugissa mu Chigege. That would mean you have to learn how to drive manual. Okitegeera, bw'ogissa mu Chigege kitegeeza you make more money yet you spend almost the same amount of fuel. I don't know if and you can make the Chigege comfortable. That's something for you to think about, Martha. Okitegeera. So let's think about it. My focus, for me personally, when I'm buying a car, I focus on what do I need. Nze sigula motoka ya sape. Nze ame point A to B. Chovola banze n'okufuuyira motoka yange wa traffic amala kunkwata nangamba ng'oluddako kula ngenda kukuba ekipapula ne mugamba afande kangene nfuuyire motoka. Okitegeera. Me as a person, I think my sister-in-laws, because babatera okujja ewange, they think oba muganda waffe yawa, because me I calculate everything. Okitegeera, I'm like the finance guy in our family. I calculate everything. We don't just spend. There are things that kati we stick to the Ipsum. The Ipsum will buy the Chigege. Okitegeera, kati awo ng'omanya buli sente ya Ipsum gye nkwatako zeekoze nzize ebbali, so that in 1 year I can actually afford to go buy a Chigege. I once thought of that advice for Martha naye nenchireka cause she's obsessed with it. She's not obsessed with yava kugamba, her budget can only afford that. Okitegeera, her budget can only afford that. Kati awo when you look at the budget nogamba my budget can only afford the Ipsum, then kati awo we refocus. We are going to make sure that we buy the Ipsum and we put as much sape as we can to attract people so that they don't go away, and so that we save as much money as we can. And at the end of the year, but by the end of like the 12 months of driving the Ipsum, we can actually afford the Chigege. Nenga na Ipsum esigala. Okitegeera. You have to think that the Ipsum ino kusigala nayo ojiwa omwana na yajivuge, so you have 2 cars in your fleet. I think everyone needs an average car, not small and not big, because small cars can also be a problem. That's why I'm team RAV4. Well, small cars depends. It depends. Like if I gave my wife a 1.0 Paso, she would afford it because yet ina Chigere. Tajja kuba na Chigere kijja kubya yingini eyo. Okitegeera. Yet tajja kulinnya Chigege. The small cars can work depending on what your math is and how you drive. Kati nze Arthur 1.0 sigisobola. From what I know about myself, I cannot afford a 1.0 car. Mbanja jikubya yingini ate nfukire ekizibu ekirala. And by the way, engine ya 1.0 cc bagisera okuzinga ya 1.3. Ya 1.3 bagisera okuzinga ya 1.5. Why? Because the smaller engines blow more often than the big engines. I don't know if I make sense. Ye motoka tuli maaso bagiyita Nissan hard body. I think MTN drives those cars. MTN. The government, of course. So it's important that we think along those lines we focus along those lines. When you're buying a car, totally know what you don't need, especially nga tukyali bavubuka emyaka gyaffe, before you enter your 50s and 40s. Before you get to the age of having a lot of money. Because I'll tell you that I know friends of mine that have plenty of money. Nga balina sente mpitirivu. Naye nga omusanga avuga nuwa gye yagula in 2014 nga gyakyavuga, naye nga wali asobola okugula Alphard naye nga taguze Alphard. Why? Because they have discipline. They have a certain level of discipline that we young people don't have. Akram, yeah. Good morning, JK. Kati math awatandise okukola math. Math ali mature. My budget can only afford the IPSAM, but I will use the IPSAM to upgrade to HGK when the time is right. Wano tebayita ku bitaala. Actually nze siyita ku bitaala. Aba boda n'aba taxi bamanyi okubiyitako. Naye nze nga Arthur siyita ku bitaala. Okujjako ngu wa traffic yaŋŋambye genda. And we know traffic officers do that in Uganda. So focus. And you know, I watch plenty of videos on focus, because focus is something that is not inborn. Focus is not something that is inborn. When with everything basically, to be that distracted by a lot of things, you go to the field ngogenza okunoonya emmoroka, sometimes kuba kwekuba njawulo obanga just you don't have interest in cars that much. I actually have a lot of interest in cars, JK, but people can have interest, but oli asobola okubala nga amafuta ga 1.0cc for example gakola ki gasobola, because the 1.0cc ojagisanga nga it can go up to 20 kilometers webe kyali namu 20 kilometers per liter. Okitegeera ne weesanga kati ng'okuva ewange n'okuddayo anywa bulita buna 4 liters. I find that it's not different from my car, but ogivuga mpola it can go up to like 3 liters. Okitegeera. Focus is not something that is inborn. Mufe. We were not born focused individuals. That's why you find that a kid can be crying for something else. No more nasirika. We were not born focused. Focus is something that we develop. Even when we are at work, we can be. Someone can be at work. Ngalimu document yamanyi nafuna notification on WhatsApp right there and then nachuka atena da notification. Yes, JK, indeed. Sometimes it's not about having a lot of money. Chibalocha fuel. Yeah. For you to learn how to focus is something that you develop mpora. For example, you be driving here on the road and you decide that, okay, when I'm driving on the road, I will not touch my phone. I will not pick up phone calls. I will not do anything. Because at that time, the important thing is for me to drive my car and get to the destination that I want to get to on time and safe. And then you do it the first week, you do it the second week, and all of a sudden you have focused on driving for a year. I know banga that kind of focus you have won. Then you go to work and then you decide, I'm going to be working on this document, for example, and I'll not look away for anything. And then you get to that. Nova kwecho. You know, you see that Pajero, those double indicators are not for nothing. The guy is definitely warning us. Nti abaye imoro keno tojigoberera nnyo. ekyayinza okufiira mu maaso awo. That's what that guy is telling us. Okitegeera, ezo double indicator Uganda tetumala gaziteekamu. Sometimes emmotoka eyinza n'okuba nfu naye omuntu n'atateekamu double indicator ezo agamba kabakigwemu. So those double indicators mean something. It might, ezo emmotoka ziba nnyo n'obuzibu bwa airflow meter, so eyinza okuba nga ebuzaabuza ku maanyi, but the airflow meter is the issue. Okitegeera muzeeyi, the airflow meter. There is a time a friend was selling that, a Pajero close to that one, and he just did not want to buy the airflow meter because I think it was around 250. Nenga nemoroka emutami kuba yali enywa amafuta. Those Pajeros zinywa amafuta. That's one thing I know about them. So yali emutami already ngenywa nya amafuta, ate nefa airflow meter ne yeyongera nenywa n'okunywa nemutama. Okitegeera. So instead of buying that Pajero, emoroka yiye ejjaje ngendo kugamba ogenda ogule, yiyo bagiyita Kruger. Of course Kruger tayina 7 seats, but then in that case you can go and buy the other car that I don't like. Bagiyita batya? Sounds like Vagabond. That car, Vanguard. Yeah. Yes. Good morning, Habiri. So we have learned that you can focus. You learn to focus one by one, and then all of a sudden you can start focusing. No gamba. And then all of a sudden you can start to focus. No manyanti. I am, for example, going to buy a car, but my focus on the important bits. And the important bits are, for example, fuel efficiency, and that it does not matter how comfortable they show me another car, my focus is on this. Okay? And then when you discuss if my focus is on fuel efficiency, then you start researching what should be my budget. That's before you buy a car. Then if you're going to focus on fuel efficiency, emmotoka eziri fuel efficient zigenda kuba mu range ya zino sente, because normally people ask me, Arthur, I'm looking for a car that doesn't consume a lot of fuel. How much will it cost me? And I'll tell you that ojja kuba na million, ekitone nnyo million 10 to buy a car that will be very fuel efficient. Okitegeera tagenda kulya nnyo sente nnyingi mu mafuta. Then you decide, okay, let me save 10 million or 13 million to buy a fuel efficient car. Like I've been telling you guys that right now, if you have 7 million and below, the best cars for you to buy in Zigambia, they are all not so fuel efficient. All of them are not so fuel efficient. Ipsam, Chibina, Chikumi, the Chikumi and Chibina are very fuel efficient. But with that budget, 7 million and below, you cannot get a Primo that is very fuel efficient. Primo genda kufuna ya sisi 12 most of the time budget yo. Tojja funa ya na ya 18. Okitegeera. Hi Matthias. Okitegeera kyengamba. So you need to understand that a budget of 7 million and below, fuel efficient should not be in your vocabulary. So if you want fuel efficient, then start at 10 million and above. Okitegeera. Kati awo ngoddamu to refocus, ngoddamu okwesonda. And then I've also told you, if you want to buy an affordable car, you should try as much as possible to not consider buying installments, because the more the installment would have very cheap. It would have been cheaper if you were paying cash. If they sell to you a car at, let's say, 15 million installment, just know it would have been 12 or 13 if you were paying cash. I once had a RAV4 1998. It had trouble climbing a steep hill. It could make noise without gaining momentum. What could have been the problem? Now, if it's moving smoothly, like on a straight road, you're moving smoothly, but it's only having trouble up the hill. Places that I would look at now, with my knowledge, I'd look at the fuel filter, I'd look at the fuel pump, I'd look at the air cleaner, I'd look at plugs, I'd look at the thing called the NOx sensor. I'd look at the NOx sensor. I'd look at they call it the oxygen sensor. Okay, Those are the first places I would look at before I look anywhere else. Now, if all those things are in charge, they are good. The last place I looked in the Primo that I had before this car was the engine block. It was cracked. Now, the engine block is something that people never think about because probably it rarely happens, but it happens. Which taking it. But I've told you, if your car is losing power up a hill, air cleaner is the cheapest, first of all. If not air cleaner, fuel filter. Okay. After fuel filter, fuel pump. Okay. Then you also need to look at the nozzles sometimes, the fuel nozzles. Okay. If not the nozzles, then you should also look at the coils, those coils, the ones that get current from the plugs. Okay. Then the plugs themselves. Then after that, you look at the various sensors that the cars have. Which take here. I think that's normally the issue. Then then the engine itself. Which take here, because you can keep changing these things. They'll even make you buy a new computer. With the Primo, I even bought a new computer. And the computer wasn't the issue. The sensors were not the issue. The engine block was cracked in there. I think it takes some time, but it can happen. Yeah, so those might have been the issues. Then what one the air intake thingy, they wash it, they can wash it, and if it's really dead, then they buy another one. Mine has no problem, but when I'm going to change the engine, I'll also buy that air intake housing, the entire thing. You get, yeah. So focus. Once you learn how to focus on a certain piece of work, once you learn to drive without distractions, once you learn to play with your kids without distraction, once you learn to read without distraction, then you can actually buy a car without distraction. Okitegeera ojja kuba tojja kubeera distracted when you decide to go and buy a car. There are people that have gone to bonds nga agenze gula, for example, Toyota Corolla 10 ne bamugana naye waliwo Mark X yalayisiko 10 bazisera ne lwaki toguze Mark X nga tebambadde babroka abo babikola nnyo because tebagala ofulume ekibanda kyabwe nga toguze emmotoka. It could be one of those things you mentioned. It can also be for piston rings or eroded cylinder liners. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, the engine. And right now, from my experience, I don't really recommend overhauling engines. Yeah, because overhauling an engine will cost you between 1 million to 1.5. Most of those engines that can be overhauled, it will cost you about 2 million to 2.5 to 3 million to buy a new engine. So normally me, I don't. If it gets to that point that all those sensors are okay, the fuel filter, fuel pump, the plugs and all those things that I've mentioned are okay, and then the mechanic will take that to see the engine, just buy a new engine. Which take it. It doesn't matter which car it is, the newer or something. You can take that engine and you do better. Which take it. No overweigh your engine because it's still moving. Never kuwa eri. And then you top up money. It can save you some money. That car is called the Nissan Sunny. It could be the alternative to the Primo. Mark X ojiraba eriko nakagambo 250. Katugwebeera awo 250 grand. What the grand means that, but it's a 2.5cc, and I think because the Mark X actually, you see, SC. I think because the Mark X actually already consumes fuel, those guys no longer mind about fuel consumption. Kati avuga ka SC ke ngata fayo chanywedde ate nakola ki. You get, and I think it's the same thing that is happening with the Subaru Xziga, that Subaru XT zinywa amafuta. Kati akole ki avuga ka SC ke kale ka mafuta kagagende naye nga already akola ki nga anyumiddwamu ka SC. So I think the point of being able to focus on the important bits when you're going to buy your next car, tujja exhaustinze bagayi bange teina bingi bya kwogera, but it's just a reminder for us to always know when we go to buy cars, especially the people that don't buy with me, because bwogula nange moroka, I'm like your conscience that is telling you constantly, okay, I think we are losing focus here. I think we are losing focus here. Era ebiseera ebisinga okujjako ng'oli wampaka nnyo. Era nkugamba nze emmotoka sigera kugissaako mukono. Okitegeera. Why? Because I realize it could also disturb a lot, like on the road, and suddenly the car can't turn. They told me the Bukono and the Biguru had issues. Question: it could be common for turning. Karuba. Bwebe Karuba, that's the steering rack, because those cars have hydraulic steerings, and the hydraulic pump is all with the fault obange in leakage. I was steering it and Karuba. Okitegeera. And most of the time abantu bagala gula hydraulic pump says it could be the hydraulic pump. And that doesn't just happen with RAV4s. It happens with all cars that have hydraulic steerings. Katolaba, my car doesn't have a hydraulic pump. The steering is not hydraulic based. But yote karuba, but it makes noise. I think the bushes in there, they get corroded or something. And when they get corroded, then it gets to a point that it can kubagana. That's the Wish, the Alex. Most of those new cars don't have hydraulic steerings. It's advantageous in a way because you'll never find it being hard, okay? But in a way, it makes a lot of noise and it becomes discomforting until you get it repaired, because I just learned that it can be repaired and it goes back to you, but it can be bush repair. Yeah, but it could have been the steering problem. Obukono be a steering. And by the time those things get your car to a point that it doesn't turn properly. One thing I know is that the Bukono don't do that. Consumption of a car depends on owner's income. A guy in a Mark X may be earning much and he sees 2.5 cc as normal, as we cry. No. Consumption is high regardless of your income. I'm telling you. Consumption is high regardless of your income. If a liter takes you 4 kilometers, the consumption is high. Just say, I have a lot of money, I will not feed it that much. But the consumption is high. You get? So I don't take it the way, Stuart, you take it, that it's high depending on your income. No. Just say a car is expensive depending on your income. We can't say that consumption is high. Consumption is high regardless. You get? Consumption is high regardless. Because you'll find people that can afford to drive a Mark X, but they don't. Why? Because they figure spending 5,000 every 4 kilometers is not worth it. It's just that they are disciplined enough to know that that kind of luxury is something I cannot afford. I'll tell you a story, and I think I've shared this story before. A friend of mine bought a Subaru Forester, the Cross Sport. It was UBF in 2020. Now UBF in 2020 was new in January 2020. Now remember, after March they announced the lockdown. Guy took a motor kanemulema, and by like June 2020, he had sold that Subaru Forester and he had downgraded to the normal Subaru. Why? He could not afford it maintenance wise because of the lockdown. Now, before you buy a car, you should actually think about it. If the inevitable happened and my income stream fell, or for example, my income was depleted, will I still be able to afford this car? It's just the discipline for you to have, because bwemba mvuge motoka yange no Corolla yange no hari akawundo navuga hari akawundo ye fena bwe tuve wange fena tutuka. You get, we all get to work safe and sound if we drive properly. So whether we get to work doesn't depend on whether the other person is driving a Kawundo, I'm driving a Corolla. We will all get to work. Tagule motoka. Motoka biveko. I can drive a 3000cc Canai, it's not worth it. Exactly, JK. That's a lot of money getting burnt unnecessarily. Exactly what I'm saying. Ochitegeera. Techikuyamba, techina chikuongerako. Okujjako abantu okulaba nti ovuga Kawundo. And by the way, one thing we need to realize, the comfort of the Kawundo is there, but you will not feel the comfort of the Kawundo if you're not seated in it. My car is, by the way, I've told you guys, I've sat in comfortable cars, but when I came back to my Corolla, I realized my Corolla is actually comfortable. I think I'm getting to a level where I'm starting to get gratitude, be grateful to for the things I have in my life, and that's one reason why I appreciate the comfort that my Corolla can actually give me, because it's me driving 50k from work from and back home is not worth it. Okitegeera tadde nyina omusajja gwenda byavuze Benz era bikasiiye agivugisiza kimama kingi nnyo. Benz tebamala gagigugula batyo, kujjako ng'oli driver nanyini Benz nayinza mala kuba yamanyi the cost implication yiyo Benz gaye agiwugudde neŋŋamba kiki kino. I would not kuwugula my Benz like that. That's the E320 Emma. The E320 is the picture I shared, and I think it was yesterday's broadcast. Over the day before that, you are asking me motoka cheyo. That's the E320. It's a very good car, very comfortable. But for me, I find that it's not worth my money. It's about the discipline of knowing that, okay, newe mba nsobola okugula ekintu ekyo, because emotoka ogiraba ku bwa UBA bwayo milioni nga 15 ku 18. Okitegeera ate 18 inakuba kumpi mpya. You get, because you can get it at like lower 13, 14, and it will still be a good car. But at 13, 14, I can get myself a Spacio new model, which will have the resale value still. I sent you a modified Ipsum owned by a mechanic in Kawempa. I've not yet seen it. I'm going to probably see it when after I'm done with the broadcast. You get ka Corolla mkalengera ka white ka UAM, but that's a city Corolla, the Vuga village Corolla. And this is the Hilux. I think Kenneth wanted to buy a Hilux, this particular one, but this one was bought brand new from Toyota, and it was bought tax free. So Chitegeza, if a Hilux that pays tax is to be bought 150, for him he bought this one, like they bought, because it's an organization car, they bought it like 70, so they save money. That's where paying taxes is good, because then you can actually get some tax holidays, because that's like a tax holiday. You get tax exempted. I think that's the Subaru XT, that one that is crossing. SUV Billy Bitan, no Julia, but that's a 2000cc, I think. 2000cc. I'm not a very big fan of Subaru, by the way. I don't know why. There's a model Kovanga to take a bench. That's one thing I've realized. All the times I've sat in the Subaru, I find that they're not very. Toyota is not as comfortable as a Mercedes Benz, but it's much more comfortable than a Subaru, from my experience. For any car above 2000cc isn't worth it. However, ground clearance is everything because of the Ugandan roads. No, Seth, no. Me, I'm driving a 1.5cc car, and I'm telling you that my bumper has never got off. Bumper yangetevanga koro kube motoka nyimpi. You learn how to drive. What about Volkswagen? And remember, Volkswagen is a car that has very low ground clearance. It doesn't go because it's too regezo. But these other ones, the Golf 4s, the Golf 3s, those cars have very, very low ground clearance. But people drive them, and you never find their engines blown all the time. You get? So I'm thinking it's how you drive your car that matters. Because people drive Alphard. Ideally the Alphard has a very high ground clearance. Na yero jakusanga olinga kugamba bumper ya Alphard yange yavuddeko. You get? So why would the bumper of an Alphard go off if it's not your poor driving? I actually saw someone that put a metallic bumper on the Alphard, which I find to be a very poor decision, because chassis yenyini ogimenya tebagikolera kuteekako metallic bumper, bagikera kutekako plastic bumper kotaddeko metal. It's not like the Hiluxes. The Hiluxes, and by the way, let it be clear, the Hilux has a different chassis. Akatanda kayo kanjawulo kayina kasobola okutekinga that thing, that metal guard okitegeera, that bull bar, but you can't get a bull bar n'ogiteeka ku Corolla oba omenya chassis, because the chassis is not that strong like the Hilux okitegeera. So I think you guys have gotten the point ya focus mojifunye, that sometimes it doesn't really matter, and Jackie has concretized it. Sometimes it doesn't really matter how much money you have. They over scratch the ground, before you know it, exhaust has a hole. But say, me I drive a 1.5cc, and I've never repaired the holes in my exhaust. I think it entirely, I think ajenvo olaba yo baba mvuga kilomita 8 nga mvuga kikubo kya ttaka nenzivuga ku macha nenzivuga n'olwekku, and there is no time that I've repaired my exhaust. Okitegeera, okuva lwe nafuna emmoloka eno sikolanga ku exhaust. That's one thing you need to understand. Okitegeera. So I think it's the driving style. Bumper oziyitako otya, ebinnyo obikuba otya, okitegeera. So ground clearance is just an excuse we give when we want to drive comfortable cars, because emmoloka eri waggulu eba more comfortable than emmoloka eri wansi. That's a fact. So SUVs are much more comfortable. My friend invited me over for a new year. Ekkubo bannange, that's Uganda. Kati bw'omanyidde ebyo ebyammwe eby'Denmark, fenna tetukyalina malala. I think our government actually puts humps nga kajanja. Now tuteekewo hump, ne wali tuteekewo hump twonone ku mmotoka zaabwe. Okitegeera, instead of actually enforcing the laws, if the problem is that people overspeed, you should not put humps. Fine people, put a very big fine for overspeeding. Omuntu bw'akola overspeeding mumukuba fine ya million emu n'ekitundu. People will not drive beyond the speed limit. And also I think the other problem is that we have a lot of untouchables. Oli bamuyimiriza nga avuze bubi ate n'agobesa owa traffic. I'm sure you guys had the Gashumba audio. Gashumba yagamba the daughter was having a party on a day when she was not supposed to have a party. The police officer came, tried to stop the party, and Gashumba got the police officer fired. You get what I'm saying? We have a lot of untouchables. We should reduce the number of untouchables, then up the fines. Ngoba gwani oba gwani bw'ovuga beyond the speed limit, ekipapula kibayo kya million emu n'ekitundu, ojja kwesanga n'obubenje bukendeera ku nguudo. Okitegeera, naye ojja kwesanga nga practice ye tuli maaso, omuntu alimu mwana wa Major General atomere owa boda, bagende ku poliisi, owa boda amalirize nga yasasudde. Lwaki? Kubanga oli mutabani wa General. And odasanga taxi ngeri DMC naye nga ya OC traffic. Okitegeera, nga tosobola gikuba kipapula mbwa DMC waayo. And those are the things that keep you Arthur one of those few good drivers. Besides, I'm going to buy it for my madam. That's the main factor. Oh, but madam ate bagala SUV. My madam bonna, even my madam wants SUV. The motoka ezawansi tazagala, ayagala kubeera eri mbire. So one more another, you have to buy an SUV for ebeere weewaka. Namwemba temugivuga naye nga agiraba eri mannya ge motoka ye. Bwagenda okukyalako ewaabwe, that once in a while you spoil some money for fuel, n'agenda ewaabwe neyeeyagala. Bamugamba wafuna bbaawo mubede. Okitegeera, naye ng'obubede bwe boogerako emmotoka temugivuga buli lunaku, agivuze ku olwo once a year. Babala bakuba nti bwe mukyala mujjira mu Corolla. Bwe batyo baagala bwagazi. Balinayo ne Harrier gyeri ewaka. Focus. Focus. Harrier tetujja givuganga buli lunaku. Lwa nsonga enywa. Tugirekeyo jja givuganga ku Christmas kwokka. Bruno, what I saw was excessive. Munange. And JK, do you know what? If you come on a live broadcast like this and you talk about the bad roads, someone will come and say you're being political. Toyagala government, olwokuba oyogedde ku nguudo embi, and then someone will say you're not patriotic because oyogedde ku nguudo embi. That's normally what we go through. Enguudo embi kati twazimanyiira, because bw'onojja n'oyogera ku nguudo embi, they will actually tell you Arthur be careful, drone eyinza okukunona. Once a year dead capital, yes, okitegeera bakugamba Arthur toyogera ku nguudo embi, drone egenda kukola ki? Drone egenda kukunona. And just like that, we have started to give up. We have started giving up on talking about the things that are going wrong in our country. Let me mute just a second. Yeah, so it's important for us to understand that nze sigula Arthur, you're right about fines. The fine eyakamu ekitundu bajinkube when I overspeed sijja kuddamu. Okitegeera sijja kuddamu ku overspeedinga. Naye people overspeed because fine ya mitwalo 10 ate on top of emitwalo eje 10 asobola okugaba enguze ey'omutwalo ne bakola ki. Naye bwe kinabanga ekipapula kya miliyoni 1.5 kitegeeza enjawulo olina gaba ya mitwalo 7. Buli bw'ona okirowoozaako ekyo ojja vuga mpola. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. So I think that's one way, and the fines actually need to be applicable to everyone, not just fe bamufuna mpola. I saw a video of a guy, a white guy, complaining about the road in eastern Uganda when he got stuck. Abasajja abo balaba, they come from countries that fund continuously fund poorly done roads. Even those loans should stop. Enguudo bazikole ku ssente zaffe. Okitegeera. Anyway, eyo tuveeyo bajja kungamba being political, simanya ni muwagizi wa nuupu, siri patriotic. Those are the things they say when we talk about the things that are going wrong in the country. Visit our neighbors in Nairobi and Kigali. Compare mtwalo, gumu 2, gumu 3, gumu 4, gumu 5, gumu 6, gumu 7, gumu 8 zezo. Visit our neighbors in Nairobi and Kigali and compare them to Kampala. Ojja kumanya nti infrastructure isn't a government's priority. But what is the priority? JK, what is the priority? I totally understand that every government has priorities. Okitegeera, every government has priorities. From the little history I know, I think Amin focused more on infrastructure. Obote focused more on health sector, on the health sector. But what has been the focus of our government? Clinging to power, definitely clinging to power. Banange jeke tontwala ye, yobajja gama being political. But what is the focus? Njagalayo omuntu omu ajja ngambe Arthur, this government has focused on this, ate bakikubye. Tebalina. Buli mwaka bajjayo ne points ze batu promising. Kuno mwaka tugenda this kisanja tugenda kukola kino na kino, they never do them. Anyway, yetuveyo jeke tudemu motoka zaffe. Abantu bajja gamba being political, oboli awo nga sikyajja ku live mugambe Arthur yabaaki, kumbe drone yakola ki? Drone ya munona. So let's not risk that. Let's not risk that. So anyway, let's go back to our cars, and we are saying that we need to focus. We need to focus when we are planning to buy. When we are planning to buy a car, either the first car or the second car, you need to try as much as possible to focus on the important bits. Important bits. Your important bits are not my important bits. For me, I know that every car can be comfortable. Every car can be made comfortable, by the way. I'll give you an example. The shock absorbers that go in my car are the same shock absorbers that go in the Primo new model. So you cannot tell me that the Primo new model is much more comfortable than my car. Wembanga shock zengula nenteka mu modoka yange. Peace. Ateto nyiza nawe. Peace where? When 2 days ago, Anyono, Martha, 2 days ago, I slept at 4 a.m. because kusawa mukaga ababbi bali baagala kumenya wange. Of course, bali tebasobola kumenya. But I kept awake because I'm thinking, bajja kumenya ekisenge bayitemu. bajja teeka ekituli mu kisenge. So which piece? Okitegeera? I didn't even run the next morning because I hadn't slept properly the previous night. I even went to the gym nga siina bulungi maanyi because I hadn't slept properly. Okitegeera, sleep is very important. But I kept being awake the entire night because I was actually securing myself. Do you guys even know that most police stations bagenda bazijjayo? Auntie, JK, you may find that the shock absorbers zikwatagana is Ipsam neza RAV4 because even the engine is the same. It's cheap. But my point is that the excuses we give when we are buying certain cars are not valid. Someone will tell you, I want to buy a RAV4 because it's comfortable, and I will tell you that my Corolla is comfortable. The difference I see with the RAV4 is that the RAV4 is higher, so it gives you that illusion of, because I'm higher, I'm much more comfortable than the guy that is lower. But you'll find that it's not the case. You get? So some of those things, focus. Our government is so good. It has focused on defending corrupt creatures. Ekirungi banange muve mu byobufuzi Marvin. By the way, Marvin, the day you realize that politics controls everything in your life, if you're a Ugandan and you stay in Uganda, is the day you realize that politics is very important to you. But of course, the reason my grandmother says stay out of politics, she has been poor, and I'm not saying that she deserves it, but she has been poor, paka. Because the government has not been able to empower most of these things. And someone will say that that's being politics, but guys, politics influences a lot of things in our life. Politics influences the charges you're getting in schools, because, well, that's the policy. Because that's the policy. You guys, politics affects and I tell you one thing, nobody's actually against anyone. Nobody's against an MP, no one is against a minister. Just do your job. So Marvin, I don't want to say we are just being political, but politics affects a lot of the things that go on in our lives. So ebyobufuzi, probably emoroka gyovuga ogivuga because of ebyobufuzi. Tosobola vuga moroka mpe Toyota because of ebyobufuzi. That's one thing you need to understand. Katuveyo. Stuart Agambe focus is staying in power anyway. Tetubeera ba blogger. We love listening to cars. Yes. No, but this one thing you need to understand is that the difference between us and those people you want to call bloggers, because nabo bakola channels are where they focus on a certain point. They focus there. But one thing you need to realize is that maintenance ya motoka za faize Uganda chovuda nkugambye okujja ko ngoguze motoka nga mpya ya Toyota. You can't stick to 1 to 10% of your income only. Okujja nga atokola sente empititive. 10% may not be able to maintain a car in Uganda. Kati bobobera like Matuga. Because engudo mbi ujja kwesanga bubolo joint bufaafa, shoko zifaafa, ebibush bikutuka okitegeera. So that's all. It's all influenced by politics. Seth, here fines for overspeeding are 500,000, running a red light is 6 million, driving in diagonal lines is 1 million, wrong parking and parking in handicap is 500,000 and 1 million. Ochiraba, if the fines are a lot, abantu batandika okufa ku mateeka, because omuntu bw'amanya nti bagenda kunkuba fine that is like half of my salary or all of my salary, atandika okwefaako. Okitegeera n'amanya nti ate nguzi, because we may not take away the corruption if up there teweddeeyo. It applies to cars and motorcycles. Ochiraba kati nowa boda nga akimanyi nti bwenvuga obubi bankuba fine ya mitwalo 5 ajja vuga bulungi. Overspeeding here is 1.25 million and a clip in the permit depending on the percentage with which you're exceeding the limit. Ochiraba, what's your take on owning Chiboko in your car in case boda guys mess you up? Anti bajja kwocha Chiboko bera nayo ngoli meja jeno ngo ina ne mundu ojaye mundu n'ogimulaga n'omwana omukuba emiggo ajja gonda naye mbu oyina Chiboko yokka bajja kwocha, you'll be killed. Boda guys, ekyo ekintu kya chameleon kyabadde staged. It was staged. teri muntu asobola kubeera amalaga kuba wa boda boda nga ba boda boda balaba nga tolina kyoli kale let's imagine Chameleon is a celebrity as well and that's why he was able to do what he did naye kati gwe Seth waabwe I mean Raymond waabwe mbokuba owa boda nga tolina kyeweesiga ya ne bw'obeera nga wa boda yakoze ekifu drive and go those boda guys tebategeera. And I'm sorry if there is a boda guy watching this. About boda, it's like when you start riding a boda obongo bobo furuma. It seems like it's like a rule of thumbs in Tikastoya ngena vuga boda obongo bobo jeko buleke wakavuga boda. Ushite tebategeera. And I avoid using the word busiru because teri muntu musiru. Abantu baba tebategeera butegeezi. So away from that I will have to make this particularly clear. My wife used to be the kind of person that yaringa Stuart ngagamba politics tumuveko, politics makes us irresponsible, let's focus on making money, until one time she realized that politics efuga buli kimu. There is a time we had a sick person, mwana muto mulwadde, special needs, and we had to drive that child to Mbale. Because eddwaliro ly'abaana erijjanjaba ekirwadde kyayina liri Mbale wokka in Uganda. Mbale wokka. So we had to drive to Mbale omwana ng'ali mu tebuuke anaawona taawone. I personally drove. That's the time I was driving a Mark II Musota nga nsumagira n'okusumagira because I hadn't planned it. Nalina mu rehearsal ne banga bana omwana afa tuyambeko omutwale Mbale. Navuga nga ng'olumu nva ne ku kkubo but because omwana yali afa twamutwala nga okitegeera they could not afford an ambulance those people, so we drove that child to Mbale. Twava eno ssaawa oba nga 5 ne tutuuka e Mbale ssaawa 8 ogw'ekiro, and that's the only time we would relax ne bamuteekako oxygen. But the only hospital that could deal with that condition is in Mbale. So Seth nani ono ne Marvin, when the day you realize that politics will affect everything in your life, okitegeera abantu babafa because you have to pay for an ambulance naye nga togisobola gisasulira at that time because ambulance egenda kujjako emitwalo 18 every day, every trip ya 8. That's the day you will realize that politics affects everything in your life. Ate kati tojjemu obutumbaavu buli obulowooza nti ba politician tubaleke bakole ebyabwe naffe yensonga lwaki enguudo zaffe mbi, yensonga lwaki malwaliro teri ddagala, yensonga lwaki private schools babaseera nga bebabaseera nga ate private schools ennungi nga government schools mbi, because twetumbaavuwaza. My grandmother was a high-ranking official in police during Amin and Obote times. She advised me to always be careful with political issues in this country. But why? Do you think you should be careful because politicians are so good? Because they are bad people. They are bad people. Probably your grandmother was also doing the same things that these people are doing. That's why she was telling you that. But let me tell you one thing. Don't mention names when I'm talking about these things that seem political. If politics was flowing good, trust me, all guys on chair would come back. Exactly, Raymond. Thank you very much. Marvin, tell him muntu ayagala agenda ku cheyo. Tell him muntu ayagala agenda ku cheyo. And guys, let's not do dirty politics. Boyogera ku politics. And we're not, by the way, let me make this clear. When I talk about bad roads, it's not politics. It's service delivery. When I talk about bad healthcare system, it's not politics. It's service delivery. Kati, it's the other people ababi abagala okifula political. Abagala okifula nti I'm not patriotic when yogera ku ddwaliro eriri mu mbeera embi. I'm not being patriotic. Lwaki nkipostinga ku social media. You get? It's those bad people. Politics affects everything in our life, guys. Nze nyina abaana abato. Njagala bakulire mu ggwanga eriri obulungi. Should I also go and run for presidency because, well, I believe I have to be president? The best thing for me to do in my capacity is to help the president know what is going wrong. Abitereze. Nebo abane president nyintagala kumanya what is going wrong ngamanya nti drone ejja kunnona. And I'm sure it's not the president. It's bana abamuli okumpi bano bebakola ebyo bya drone bebanona abantu. Away from that, Stuart agenda gamba I'm becoming a blogger. I'm talking about politics. Stuart, I know endowooza your money wange. Anyway, you guys, I have to go do work. I have some deadlines in Twala. But thank you very much for always being part of this broadcast. Council Patrick, Seth, Chris Da Vinci, Rashid, of course Martha and Emma. Nababadeba commenting in the first broadcast. Thank you very much. John Akram, Mulangira Juko, Seth, Mark, Muhammad, Nico Kaziwe, Emma, Martha, Stuart, JK, Habiri, Matthias, Abby, of course nabali Mukamori. I don't take you for granted until you take your time and data and watch these broadcasts. Waswa, Raymond, and of course, but Marvin, I'll tell you one thing. Let's not wagogenda zaala abaana probably oyina abaana bo n'abazuulo oyagala bakulire mu ggwanga ki. You need to tell the government what is doing wrong so that it fixes it, because that's our only role. You talk about what is going wrong so that they fix it. Okitegeera, if in you telling your father that daddy toilet zirize wagula mbi, it gets you killed in your own house. Tata wajja kutuga butuzo olwokuba oyogedde ku toilet embi, then tata wo muntu mubi nnyo. Okitegeera, for me that's what I believe. Okitegeera, for me, if my kids come and tell me, daddy, the compound is dirty and we don't have a broom, and instead of buying a broom I just get a kid named Borui who is bad, mutabani wange yalina empisa embi oba nze mubi, that's a food for thought, guys. Don't forget, I do pre-purchase inspection. I sell tracking systems for cars. I also sell car alarms. I'm also a marketer, professional marketer. I definitely know how to make businesses tick. And I'll give you one. I'm laying a strategy for one of my businesses that is definitely going to make, I will tell you by the end of the year, guys. And this is probably one of the biggest strategies I've ever laid, and I'm going to see it through. Mukama abawo mukisa bagayi bange. I'll see you tomorrow at 7:15. Ciao.